6. How do I get rid of this little thing I put up here? It says capitis diminutio maxima, the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with all rights of citizenship and all family rights. So, when you were born, they issued a birth certificate. Someone from the county came in and said, while you were all drugged up, your mom was drugged up and just happy to have you and still in pain, they wanted her to fill out this paper so that you can get a birth certificate. That birth certificate is on, coincidentally, bond paper. And here we are talking about bondage. Then that birth certificate was used to get a Social Security account number. They gave you a 9-digit number, attached it to that birth certificate. Now you became a slave on paper only. Now, let me correct that. You didn't become a slave. The name became the slave. They took the name your mom gave you and converted it into a slave name by use of the Social Security number. So we have to correct that. We have to distinguish ourselves from that all-capped name. All right? So let me do a new share here. Hang on a second. Let me minimize this. All right, let's go here. Let's go to the Articles of Confederation. All right, right now you should see the Articles of Confederation. All right, Article 4, Section 4 of the Articles of Confederation. Now I'm scrolling. Can you see that, everybody?
Yes.
Give me a quick. All right, thank you. All right, number 4 says, by the way, this is the document that created the United States of America, not the U.S. And a lot of people don't understand what the U.S. really is. This document tells you what the U.S. really is and its full description. Because in number 2, it says each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence in every power, jurisdiction, and right, which is not by this confederation especially delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. So really, the real title of the United States is United States in Congress assembled. The United States only exists when they are assembled making laws. Okay, so that means when they're sitting there, that's when the United States is in operation. That's why they have to get these laws put out before they go on vacation, or they got to wait till United States in Congress assembled come back. Nothing happens. That's why the IRS doesn't get funded if they don't agree on something. All right, but they leave their third-party representatives open while they're not in session to run the business while they're gone. And one of the main entities that's running their business is the IRS. Okay, then on top of that, the states are running their businesses for them. Because what they do, they've created laws like child support and other different laws to say, well, you need to enforce child support. And if you enforce child support, we're going to pay you so much money for everything you do in that proceeding. Just to enforce this, we're going to give you dollars for this. You know, like some people might ask, where are they getting the money to pay the states to enforce child support? Is it from child support itself? No, it's not. It's from that bond, that birth certificate. Because basically, they are probating that estate when you go into a child support case. And they're pulling money down out of those accounts that's attached to that bond. And then It's saying 1 for you, 10 for me. Okay? So they're giving them chump change. They're giving the states chump change compared to what the federal government gets out of those transactions. Another way that they tap in is in bankruptcy court. They create a bankruptcy estate, and we all know what an estate is. That's something that is created after someone's death, right? But they have a bankruptcy estate, get a brand new EIN, and when you go in there and say, well, I want to do a chapter 13, chapter 17, they do a 1041 and draw money down and pay all your creditors off. Okay? But they got you under the illusion, if you're in the chapter 13, that you got to pay. You pay down these debts and they create, you know, these accounts like you're paying this and you're paying that. I was in chapter 13, so I know what it looks like. But really, that money is actually going to the trustee. Because why? The checks you make out to a bankruptcy case is always made out to the trustee. So they get to keep that money. And what is the trustee? What is the trustee? Then no more than another person, like as if someone in your family died and you was the what? Executor of their estate. And you got to go make sure all the bank accounts right, all the bills is paid. That's what the trustee is doing for that name. So we got to correct all these, get these things changed. And another big reason that you need to change it is 18 U.S.C. Section 1342, fictitious name or address. It is unlawful to use a fictitious name or address in commerce, right? And use the post office to do it. And every company out there is doing that. They're sending you a bill in that all caps name, and they're also transacting in fictitious names. Because the real entity that runs that business is a trust. And they create these little sub corporations to make money for them and to collect money for them. So it says here, everybody can see that? All right, can you?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, whoever, for the purpose of conducting, promoting, or carrying on by means of postal service, any scheme or device mentioned in section 1341 of this title, or any other unlawful business, uses, or assumes, or requests to be addressed by any fictitious, false, or assumed title, name, or address, or name other than his own proper name, or takes or receives from any post office or authorized depository of mail matter, any letter, postal card, package, or other mail matter addressed to any such fictitious, false, or assumed title, name, or address, or name other than his own proper name shall be fined under this title in prison not more than 5 years or both. So they're transacting business in assumed names. You are not to be touching assumed names. I know in the past, when I had other partners, we taught that, hey, get you an assumed name, right? I got 5 assumed names that I've used. I've assumed name my actual in Legas, DBA, some of my paperwork, I've done that. I don't do that anymore. It was effective then because they wasn't smart enough, because a lot of these people don't read their own laws. They don't know about this law, 18 U.S.C. 1342. They have no idea this is here. Only the real adept and people who understand at the top knows what this is, right? So, but as you know, when you're in a system like this is like, can be likened to the Matrix. They get better over time. So we have to stay ahead of the game. So, back to, I was reading that. One other thing I wanted to show you here, which I didn't read, section 4 of the Articles of Confederation. It says, the better to secure and perpetuate mutual friendship and intercourse among the people of different states in this union. The free inhabitants of each of these states, paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice accepted. So they're saying paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice accepted. So they're not included in the privileges and the rights of free inhabitants. So when they converted you into a pauper on paper or a slave on paper, you became accepted. You are not included in these having rights. That's why they can come in and just take your children whenever they feel like it. Now, they do take children physically, but really they're taking that paper, transacting paper. You got to ask yourself, where does the government, when they put a child in foster care and they pay foster parents money, where are they getting this money from? To be able to pay each foster home a certain amount of money. People get foster children, they don't have jobs. They just do foster children because they get this money to take care of these children. Where's the money coming from? When the country is in trillions of dollars of debt, where is it coming from? It's coming from those accounts, that birth certificate, all right? That bond. Pauper, a recipient of government relief or public charity. So anytime you take a benefit, and the first benefit they offer you is the use of that 9-digit number, the Social Security number. Now, don't be confused with a Social Security check. That's not the same thing. That is not public charity. Because when they created the Social Security account or Social Security Administration, the intentions of that agency is not what it's doing today when it was first created. It was supposed to take care of people after retirement. You work, they take a little bit of money out of your check, put it aside, they give it back to you. But over the years, they created different laws and they found ways, well, let's use this money to do other things with it. Let's rob their retirement accounts and do other things with it. And by the time they retire, you know, we'll just start paying them off, paying them their money. So right now, people who get retirement checks now is probably, they're paying them off the people that's working now, not off the actual account that they had saved up over the years. They're not paying it out of that. They're paying, so that's why they have to keep the tax situation going where they're taking money, keep it going, because if they don't do it, the whole system collapses because they robbed those accounts years ago. All right. So you don't want to be a pauper. You don't want to receive any public charity. One of the latest public charity was when they gave that stimulus out, because really they're going to count it towards your next year's taxes anyway, when they gave it to you. The other public charity is that small business money they gave out and said $10,000 of it, you don't have to pay. It's forgiven. That's a public charity. And I know a lot of people who've done this, went for that money, got it, and they weren't doing anything. They weren't doing businesses. But they're going to come for that money one day. And they're going to come, oh, you said you had a business. What's this? And when the IRS starts to assess, they assess at the most extreme amount possible. You got to fight your way out of that. And anybody who's dealt with them will tell you it is a fight. They do not let go easily. All right. So there you have it. Name change. You got to do it. So how do you do the name change? Hang on. Let me pull up a sample of mine. Well, basically, when you do the name change, you just go down to the county courthouse where you live in, because you can do a name change anywhere, long as you live in that area. Now, some people want to do it in the county that they were born in. That's good, but you need to be able to provide proof that you live there if they ask for it.
So imagine if you was armed with the knowledge that the feminine aspect is wisdom. So now you know what to look for in a wife, a woman who has wisdom. And I mean, look around us. Look around. There's not many of that going on. Wisdom. Everybody's chasing after the next fad or trend, you see? Everybody's doing things that are not wise. Why? Because we come from a system that taught us not to be wise. They taught us that we needed their education system to go get a job. That's not wisdom. That's not wise, because that's not what God gave us. Remember, wisdom is worth more than gold, silver, and any riches you got. See, when they told the story of Solomon when he became king and God asked him what he wanted, he said wisdom. This here, it really opens your eyes up to why they took this out, so that you don't see the power of both man and woman. So they had to choose one. They chose one and put the other one down, and you need them together. See, that man, Solomon, knew he needed wisdom. He needed that feminine aspect of knowledge and understanding and compassion. Yo, what's up? What's up? Let me check my mic. It's working. Hope everybody's doing good. It's middle of May already. 5 months almost gone. Just a little check-in. All of those goals you set out for the beginning of the year, how are you doing? What's your progress like? And if your progress isn't where you want it to be, how are you checking yourself so that you can get back on track? It's never too late. You know, sometimes we get behind. I get behind. Sometimes things get in. I allow things to get in the way. Sometimes things get in the way. And sometimes I just plain be lazy. Procrastination. So as long as you recognize it and you get back on track. So I hope everybody had a good Mother's Day. You celebrated your moms, your wives, your daughters who have children, sisters, aunts. So May 24th, I'm going to be in New York teaching about the Constitution. I got a lot of information to bring. I'm still compiling some things that I'm going to talk about. But y'all know how I work. Like, I have it all in my head, and then like I'll get to New York and or I'll get to wherever I'm staying, like a hotel, and I'll just brainstorm it out right there before I do the seminar. So it's just how it works. I have pretty much what I'm going to talk about. But like the outline, I don't know. But I like to do it organically because people ask questions, and sometimes that one question could be the spark to take me to bring down the downloads that I need to talk about. So I really live by that scripture. Don't worry about what you need to say, because in that hour, it will be given to you what you need to say. Wisdom will come. Sophia will show up. So I'm looking forward to it, going back to the hometown. I'm going to be speaking not too far from my old stomping grounds of when I wasn't so, when I was being a knucklehead in my teenage years. So, I know the title of this broadcast is Negotiable Instruments. I'm gonna touch on that briefly, but you know, I that was the title. That's what I put on a few days ago. That's what I wanted to talk about. But I watched that name change video. That's the name change webinar I did back in 2020. Then to come to think about it, I got quite a collection of videos of teachings. Like, I have an idea, but I won't speak it. Sophia said, shut up, don't say nothing. But when I was reading that fictitious name law, it sparked the conversation that I had with someone a few weeks ago. You know how you know something and you don't know something at the same time? Like, you know something, but you there's some part that's missing. And when I was reading that or listening to myself read that, it sparked a teaching, something that I want to go over now. And that is 13 USC. Let's see. I have it already up, I think. There it is. Let's get this out of the way. 18 USC, fictitious name or address. Now, for years when I read this, I was looking at it in one dimension, right? You know, when it was a whole crew of us, it was like 5 of us back in 2015 teaching, and this was a big thing about getting a DBA, fictitious name. Those are, you know, in New York, they call them certificates of assumed names. And the other titles is DBAs. And there's another assumed names, fictitious name, and DBAs. I think those are the 3 main things you'll hear when it comes to these. But Sophia dropped a download or a reminder download that I need to go over this code with you to show you something about all of your debt that you have. So here we go. We're going to read this. Whoever, for the purpose of conducting, promoting, or carrying on by means of postal service any scheme or device mentioned in section 1341 of this title, or any other lawful business. See, a lot of people say, well, what does section 31 say? Here it is. Let's see what that says. Whoever having devised or intending to devise any scheme or artifice to defraud or for obtaining money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises, or to sell, dispose of, loan, exchange, alter, give away, distribute, supply, or furnish, or procure for unlawful use any counterfeit or spurious coin, obligation, security, or other article, anything represented to be or intimated or held out to be such counterfeit or spurious article for the purpose of executing such scheme or artifice, or attempting to do so, places in any post office or authorized depository for mail matter, any matter or thing, whatever to be sent or delivered by postal service, or deposit or causes to be deposited, any matter or thing, whatever to be sent or delivered by any private or commercial interstate carrier. I know this is a lot. And they're saying, and they're throwing a lot of things at you at once. But I'm going to point to the things that you need to be paying attention to. Because you know how they do. They'll throw so many things at you, it'll make your head spin. And for the average person, it will make their head spin. But it ain't my head's not spinning. Because I understand what these words means. And in a way, we are talking about bills of exchange. It's funny, it's how this just ties in. But let me keep going. I just like to read the whole thing. I know it's boring and whatever. Or takes or receives therefrom any such matter or thing, or knowingly causes to be delivered by mail or such carrier according to the direction thereon, or at the place at which it is directed to be delivered by the person to whom it is addressed, any such matter or thing shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years, or both, if the violation occurs in relation to or involving any benefit authorized, transported, transmitted, transferred, dispersed, or paid in connection with a presidentially declared major disaster or emergency, as those terms are defined in section 102 of the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief or Emergency Assistance Act. Or affects a financial institution, such person shall be fined not more than $1 million, or imprisoned not more than 30 years, or both. Now, let's pay attention to some words. Furnish or procure unlawful use of counterfeit or spurious occurring obligations and security. Those are the 2 words you need to worry about. Because what is money? Obligations of the United States, right? All Federal Reserve notes are obligations of the United States Treasury. So let's go back to the other law. Let's go back so I can show you what's happening with your debt. So I'll read it again for the purposes of a reminder. Whoever, for the purpose of conducting, promoting, or carrying on by means of postal service any scheme or device mentioned in section 1341 of this title, or, that's the key, any other unlawful business uses or assumes or requests to be addressed by any fictitious, false, or assumed title, name, or address, or name other than his own proper name. So let's stop. Let's take a moment. I want this to sink in, why I read this and how it relates to the bills you get in your mail. Let's check. Let me see if y'all woke in that chat. If y'all can get where I'm going. Give you a moment to think about it. And I'll read it again. It says, or assumes or requests to be addressed by any fictitious, false, or assumed title, name. Let me ask y'all a question. Whenever you get a bill from the IRS, a debt collector, it is always in that assumed all cap name. When did you make a request for them to send you any information like that in the mail? To address you like that? When did you ask them to do that? Because it says here, uses or assumes or requests to be addressed by any fictitious, false, or assumed title. Did you request them to do that? Right? No. They just automatically sent you a bill in the mail, all caps, and all you did was take it. Oh, it looks the same. This is my bill. And you assumed and went ahead and took care of it under that name. But according to this is unlawful because you are supposed to have requested that to be titled that way. And I'll tell you how it works, right? If I have a company, say I have a company in North Carolina, but I want to go to New York and use my same company name, but for some reason someone else has that same exact name in New York and using it, I can't use that name. So in order to do business in New York, I will come in either as a separate entity, create a whole new entity with a new name, but that can be inconvenient, especially if I have clients that know me by this name in North Carolina, right? So what I would do is I would go in as, my trucking company name is American National Trucking, right? Doing business as another name. I would create another name. That's, so hey, I'm doing business as this, but this is who I really am. So now let's bring this to how your bills work, right? They're just automatically sending you a bill in all caps. They just, because they can't send it to the real person or the real divine being, because divine beings are not charged to live here. They don't have any rights to that divinity. It's sovereign. It's exempt. It's out of their jurisdiction. So they have to create these entities for you to attach to. And they don't bring mail to the door. They put it in mailboxes. And I think I talked about this a couple of weeks, and I've talked about this many times. If you live in a house, you see how the mailbox looks. It looks just like a casket. Shaped just like one. Flat on the bottom, it has a little rounded. And he brings it to the foot of the property. They have laws under most circumstances, they have to put your mail in that box unless it's a piece of mail that can't fit. But that is required to go in there first before they even give it to you. So that means that you guys should be drafting letters and separating yourself from the, hey, who you talking to here? Who is this? This ain't me. You are supposed to attack that in that way. Hey, this is, give them notice. Hey, can you specify? Now, this has never happened to me personally, because I've had so many other effective ways of getting rid of debt. I've never really spent time down that road. But I have confirmed people attacking that name, especially with default debt, and they take it off. You see? And yes, mailbox is considered federal jurisdiction. So anything that goes in the mail, that little area has easement for the federal government. So you're bringing the United States to your doorstep. That's why years ago, people were just taking down their mailboxes and they would get their mail at the post office. They would go to the federal government and get their mail instead of having it dropped off. But, because people want convenience, they allow the mail to come to them. Right? So what they're doing when they're assuming you to be the all caps is a crime. And you need to be addressing this code in there. They are committing a crime. Because they're supposed to send in his own proper name. Dressed to any such fictitious. We all know that the Enligus is a fictitious name. That's what it's a ens ligus. Do I need to show you the definition of this? Ens ligus. It is a Latin word. It's a Latin word. A creature of law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person. Applied to corporations considered or as deriving their existence entirely from law. See? A term from Latin usage translates to being of the law. A being of the law. Do you hear what it says? Being of a law. A creature of the law. Not a being of divinity, a being of God. It's a being of law. So when you're not properly noticing them that what they're sending you is not proper, then you're not doing your due diligence. I'm even guilty of that because I had so many ways of getting rid of debt. I didn't really chase it down. I thought it'd be a small thing, but now it's not so small because these debt collectors have sort of kind of upgraded a little bit. I mean, they still can't escape my mighty pen, but they're playing games now. They're being a little hard head. So it might come to the point where you will have to take them to court and sue them. Some of us gonna have to bite the bullet and just go after them. Don't wait till they go after you. You sue them. Put them on notice. You can either sue them in state court. If you go in state court, you're gonna have to use state statutes to sue them. If you go into federal court, you're gonna have to use federal statutes. Okay? One thing you have to realize, before you sue, I always recommend filing a complaint with the Consumer Protection Bureau. And my complaint will outline how they're addressing you in that paperwork. See, if you just let them keep sending you stuff in the mail without properly noticing them that they are addressing some some corporation, and that's illegal because you never signed up for that. In a way you did when you got to social, but you didn't know what you were doing. No one told you exactly what that contract involved. So right there, that's fraud. Okay. It's amazing how they come after you for fraud, but they committing fraud every day. Every day. And funny thing is, well, no, I'm gonna stop right there. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about. Y'all good on that? Y'all good before I go on? Said remove my address. Well, I always told y'all guys to not have mail coming to your home in the first place. I always told y'all that. I used to go through the chat. Let me go to the chat real quick. Cherokee, salutes to you. Salutes back to you. He's got his hand up, his hand clap. I guess that's what that means. Probated account. Exactly. They are probating the account. Peace and prosperity. And he said, peace, my brother. That class was fire. Yeah, you should have saw the whole video. Thank you. And La Vida says, peace, everybody. C. King Bay says, peace, everyone. When is Corinne coming back? What did he say? And your name is going to be jacked up. Looks like Euro, but they done changed the spelling. First, last, and no middle if you have one. I don't have a middle name. So let's go on to the next thing. And it's got to do with Christianity. And it's this letter right here. Like I said, I was going to talk about negotiable instruments, but we're going to put that on hold because this is important. And this is a letter written in 1883. So I would say that's some years after they abolished slavery in the U.S., in America. And this is a letter from King Leopold II of Belgium to the colonial missionaries, 1883. Y'all gotta understand, missionaries were more like mercenaries. They were sent in to destroy indigenous cultures. Missionaries are mercenaries, okay? They were sent in to destroy with religious propaganda. This is why, you want to be a Christian, that's fine. That's the route you want to take, that's fine. But you need to know what you're taking and why you even have the version of Christianity that you have. It was so many versions before this version. The matrix is always changing. And you're starting, they're changing things now. Again, they're writing new Bibles. They got a rainbow Bible that they created that changed changed how you look at homosexuality in the Bible. They changed that. There's actually a Bible out there and it's got a rainbow on it. I always try to remind you about Bibles to wake you up to what you really have in your hand. That Bible is man controlled, meaning someone is printing that up in a factory and putting their copyright on it. Every Bible I have over here has a copyright on it. That means that version belongs to them. So you mean to tell me God has given all of these guys different versions of the Bible to influence you with? So I can't take that one of those, say if I wanted to make a Bible, right? I can't take that Bible and use it word for word, because then they could sue me for using their copyrighted material. That right there should make you think. Just that alone. That what God just allowed these big corporations, these big publishing companies to control his word. Because that's how the preacher's preaching it. He's preaching it that way. This is God's word. The government has also taken the Bible to be is a public law that says the Bible is the word of God. The only reason why I use the Bible in court cases and because that's, if they say that's the word of God, when I spit it, they gotta obey. That's how I bring them to their knees. But I know what the Bible really is. And anybody who is adept to any type of spirituality will always tell you that the Bible is a very dangerous thing for some people, because it creates wealth for others and poverty for the indigenous. And I'm going to prove it by reading this. See, it was creating wealth for the colonizers, the European settlers and all of them. It was meant to create wealth for them. The spell on the current version of the Bible is to create wealth for the European nations and create poverty for the indigenous folks. And if you think I'm talking about it out of my head, just look at history. Just look at the history of all the indigenous groups on this planet, which is way more population of indigenous folks than it is them all over this planet. Look at their countries, how impoverished they are. We call them third world countries. We call third world countries that can grow food in their backyard. We call those third world countries. And I look outside, there's not one tree out there that is growing fruit. So who's really poor? We're under the illusion of wealth here. Because to me, wealth is having your food, your place to stay. That's wealth. And an unlimited supply of that. In those places, they have an unlimited supply of that because the food is growing year round in their backyard. And then their waters are clean. They can just go out and fish. And they're good and eat good food and not processed, highly processed, hyper processed foods like we do here. Even the stuff that they call natural is not really natural because the animals are not eating natural food. But back to my point when I'm talking about the Bible. This current version of this matrix has revamped all of the Bibles to fit and create mindsets that create poverty for indigenous folks and creates wealth for the settlers. Are y'all hearing me? That is the overarching theme of why they created new Bibles. Because they changed specific passages in the book to fit their needs. That's undisputable. Hands down, it's undisputable. Because when you get older Bibles, things are different. Hang on. I should have brought me a cup of water here. Might have to go get it. All right. So let's read this letter. Letter from King Leopold II of Belgium to colonial missionaries, 1883. Reverends, fathers, and dear compatriots, the task that is given to fulfill is very delicate and requires much tact. You will go certainly to evangelize, but your evangelization must inspire above all Belgium interest. Excuse me. Only thing I got to drink is Santa Ana. I'm trying to avoid it. Your principal objective in our mission in the Congo is never to teach the niggers to know God. This they know already. So they already knew that the indigenous people already had a form of spirituality was far superior than theirs. So they had to give them an inferior form of spirituality. They had to tell you your voodoo, your hoodoo, your crystals, and all of that was false. Your burning of incense, when the Bible is full of burning of incense and frankincense, they bathed the bodies in herbs and stuff and prepared it for burial and all of those things. Those were rituals, okay? Sending that spiritual force back into the ether. But yet we get into, you're so indoctrinated into this current version of Christianity, and I stress current version because the other versions, Gnostic versions, was more about keeping in touch with your ancient traditions that are millions of years old, okay? Not thousands, millions. Let me help y'all understand something. We were here millions of years before there was what we called a blue-eyed, translucent skin, what we now call white. And I say translucent on purpose because that was the original form. You know, you could almost see their veins in through their skin. They totally different genetic pool. I'll dive into the translucent, what I was talking about, but they came in places like Mexico, because you go and take those tours, they talk about them. The very first place I heard about them, I knew about them before that, but the very first place when somebody openly admitted was on a tour in Mexico. When I was in what's that part of Mexico? It's right off. Oh goodness, I can't even think of it. Luco, Lisans. I have to look at it. But it runs on that side of where California. They even have a part that's called like California, but I can't think of the name. But it was the first place, and the guy was talking about, yeah, they were the original people here, and that's the script they give them to tell. And I was like, this Mexican dude just sitting here telling these lies for these European settlers. And then he was pointing out who the Mayans were. Yo, those are Mayans. See, the Mayans ain't go nowhere. They didn't disappear. They just paper genocide them. Now they calling them Mexicans. Not all Mexicans are Mayans, because Mayans, Tainos, all of them, they're mixed in over there too. It's about 3 or 4 different groups of indigenous in Mexico. I got to go back and get my research out again. But because you'll see the really short Mexicans, and there's some tall ones, and those all come from different tribes. But specifically the short ones, what he was pointing out that they were, and the shorter ones with the darker skins were the ones that he was pointing out that were the Mayans. Because I asked him, where are these Mayans? He said, oh yeah, they're working at all of the resorts. They're the shorter ones, and they have their face tends to be longer. This is how you describe them, right? They're here. And me and him got a good discussion, by the way, about it. I said, yeah, they really did a number by saying that their whole civilization just disappeared. They don't know where they went. No, but I said they didn't go anywhere. They're here. They're just on paper reclassified. just like they did what they're calling African Americans in here in North America. They just renamed them. I told y'all that movie 12 Years a Slave, it should tell you what really happened. They didn't go over to Africa and get anybody. They took a group of people from the north side, took them to the south. Hoodwinked them, put a hood on it. They didn't know where they were going. All they know they was on the water, and they ended up in the south. Come on. When you think about it, if you ever worked around white folks, especially white males, they're some of the laziest people I've ever worked with. They take shortcuts on everything. So these people went and worked hard to get from Africa to here, just get something when all the people were already dark here, and they just this, and then they started slipping into the slave quarters, having babies. Then now they created their lighter skins, and then they segregated them, and then said, okay, we gonna call y'all Air Indians and Cherokees and stuff because you got the lighter skin. Then you had the $5 Indian where they were buying in their Native American history. Then they had the lock on the lab, so if you're testing DNA, they can say whatever with that. Sophia got me on the roll tonight. And I was really struggling before the show. Like I must have been receiving a real big download, because right before the show I was like, oh man, I can't. Feeling a little woozy out of nowhere. Now I'm straight. I'm good. I gotta prepare myself to receive these downloads, because they be coming hard and they be really pressing down on me. And then I was like, man, I haven't felt like this in a long time. What's going on? Now I know. But let's finish this letter. By the way, what are y'all talking about in that chat? Keep an eye on that chat. So they speak and submit to Mungu, one Nzambi, or one Nzamkomba, I can't pronounce that properly, I think. And what else? I don't know. They know that to kill, to sleep with someone else's wife, to lie, to insult is bad. Have courage to admit it. You're not going to teach them what they already know. See, they already knew we had the morals. We already had the God. We already had the power. They had to come and strip us of that through giving us false teachings. Your essential role is to facilitate the task of administrators and industrials, which means you will go to interpret the gospel in the way it will be the best to protect your interests in that part of the world. So isn't that's what's happening now? The gospel is being taught in the best interest of the settlers, the colonizers. And if I'm wrong, then how come they're the ones economically dominating us? And we're the biggest group of people that support these churches, especially our black women, our indigenous women. I don't like that word. I'm gonna start using that. Our indigenous, beautiful, melanated sisters support the church wholeheartedly, and that's because that's written in their DNA to look for spirituality. But if they're given a false sense of spirituality from birth, and that is translated or transformed or transmuted, transferred from generations of other mothers before them, so it's already in them to accept that. See, that's why I always say the attack is always at the woman. You get the woman, you got the whole tribe. You got her mind, you got the tribe. Because what happens, if there's any male warriors that are wanting a buck, she's going to get them in line. The daughters is gonna fall in place, but the sons were like, wait a minute, this ain't right. This is why mothers tend to have trouble with their boys, especially when they're in the school system. And if they're the only ones trying to raise them, he gives them a problem, because that warrior spirit, and that spirit is saying this ain't right. And what is happening is, and what they don't get is that his protection mode is triggered, meaning this ain't right, but he doesn't know how to express it properly, and it's looked at he's a problem. And they try to put him in special ed, but his protection mechanism, the DNA is activated to protect himself and his family, but nobody's listening to him. I always say to people, you listen to your children, you will learn from them. You will learn. That's what's happening with these young boys in school. That protection logic is kicked in at high gear. He feel like this is some bull, what I'm dealing with. But everybody's forcing them down and dumbing them down, and then eventually most of them give in because everybody's against them, against him being of his natural state of mind. For these things you have to keep watch on, disinteresting our savages from the richness that is plenty in their underground. To avoid that, they get interested in it and make you murderous, competition, and dream one day to overthrow you. Your knowledge of the gospel will allow you to find texts ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty. Like, happy are the poor because they will inherit the heaven. See? And it's very difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. You have to detach from them and make them disrespect everything which gives courage to affront us. I make reference to their mystic system and their war fetish, warfare protection, which they pretend not to want to abandon, and you must do everything in your power to make it disappear. Your action will be directed essentially to the younger ones, for they won't revolt when the recommendation of the priest is contradictory to their parents' teachings. The children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends. Who is the father of their soul? You must singularly insist on their total submission and obedience, and avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Teach students to read and not to reason. That's the description of the public education school system right here. There, dear patrons, are some of the principles that you must apply. You will find many other books which will be given to you at the end of this conference. Evangelize the niggers so that they stay forever in submission to the white colonialists, so they never revolt against the restraints they are undergoing. Recite every day, happy are those who are weeping because the kingdom of God is for them. Isn't that? This was in 1883 for Belgium. Isn't that what we're dealing with now? This playbook is still going on. Everything that connects to your ancestral spirituality is called demonic. And let me tell you something. You didn't hear that your ancestral rituals was demonic from a white person. You heard it from your own mama, your own daddy, your own brothers, your own sisters, your own aunts and uncles. You heard it from them. They taught you that. Because all those years ago, that was introduced to them as demonic, and they just carried that torch. They gave you mental chains on your brain, on your mind, most everybody out there are mentally enslaved. And I'm going to tell you, this version of Christianity is definitely mental slavery for indigenous people. I see it in my family. I see it in other people's family. I see it all around me. How people will take their religion, their belief systems, and justify their own poverty with it. Do you understand that has been socially constructed for centuries? And this is how they have captured us. Yeah, they did it physically before, but now it's mental capture. And it's ongoing. It's still going on. It hasn't stopped. Remember the civil rights movement? They wanted Brown versus education integrated into these schools. Like, what kind of mental illness do you have that you would send your child, your only beloved child, into a situation, into a hostile environment, into the middle of the battlefield? And they showed, the kids that were busting, Selma, busing, whatever that's called, Selma, Alabama, wherever that was, busing into, they made history. Curse be it to those parents that sent their children into the lion's den with all of those wicked people that was spitting on them, saying, how do you say you love your child and you expose them to that mental trauma? Like, why would you do that? Other than you were absolutely insane. To put yourself in that danger. When the cops was escorting them in school and you see all of those white kids talking trash to them and spitting at them and calling them all kind of names, and then you expected them to come up healthy and have family. That family trauma that was created from that is still being passed down. And this is why we suffer, because we sacrificed our children to their gods and put them in situations like that. And we're still doing it by sending those children into public school systems right now. We're still doing it. Under the guise of they're being educated. Yes, they're being educated to hate your ass and not want to be around you and look down on you because you ain't shit because you black. That's the education they really receiving. To become your enemy. But yet, you brag about it. Oh, they graduating. Oh, we do this. I've done it. But I'm really I have come to the reality of what I've exposed my children to. And how do I expect to be really prosperous, and I've done that to my children? Think about that. We're cursing our own selves by the methods of how we are introducing our children into this matrix of evil to hurt and keep us in a position of always being in servitude to someone. Okay, we can't force them to work fields, but we'll do it this way. We'll make them believe they're free and give them a paycheck that limits where they live and limits what kind of car and vacations they take on, limits the man and how he's even viewed by his woman. Right? The black man is not looked at as a man who makes a lot of money. Yeah, there's a few of them come out who make a lot of money, but we don't have that reputation as a thriving male population. What we have is a lot of innuendos are put on us. A lot of things that are not true about us are put on us. Those people believe, right? They like the general consensus that black men are deadbeat dads for the most part. which that's not true. The studies have said it opposite. That black men are more involved in their families' lives than any other group of men. White males at the bottom. It's quite opposite. But the world gave you a viewpoint or a visionary to buy into, to make it look like that. And that's how powerful mental projections can be. Now, what is happening? We had in all groups, I see it in all groups of the indigenous people are fighting with each other. I'm the woman, I'm the man, and we're sitting here scratching each other's eyes out while they're thriving and surviving. Because at the end of our fights, we take our money and go, you give it to them. And that's all they want. Yeah, we give you a paycheck, but make sure you come spend it over here. You only, hey, we give you $100,000 a year, but most of that's gonna come back to us anyway. So what? Because y'all too busy fighting with each other. Y'all still be fighting over little petty stuff. Like who's the leader? Who's following who? Oh, you ain't gonna tell me what to do. Yeah. Petty. You're not gonna run me. Okay, you're not being ran, but when you being ran through by the system. Somebody running you. You ain't gonna let him do it, but somebody else is running you. Oh, she not gonna play me. Oh yeah, she ain't gonna play you, but they playing you with that paycheck that you accepted, that slavery you accepted, instead of out there creating legacy for your family by, creating mad wealth for yourself. And the other thing you're being played on, you're not really educated. We're not really educating ourselves and our children properly. And I understand we got miseducation. I started out that way. And then it wasn't until my 40s where I really took charge of that. But just in that 10, almost 11 years, it drastically changed my life. Where no one owns my time. No one tells me when to get up, go to sleep. I have to be disciplined to get up and go to sleep and do things. I have to do that. There's no one writing checks for me. There's no one even paying my bills for me. I'm 100% earning currency from what's in this brain. Some people, how do you do it? And the only reason why people ask me how I do it, because they're in a position where they're getting a paycheck from someone. So you want to get to the point where people are calling you and making you take money from them. And I don't refuse. Now, I help people out. Some people I don't take money from because there's another. It's because I see investment, but I don't invest with deadheads. And I can see a deadhead a mile away. Because if I'm sitting there and I'm reading something, and the spirit is not triggering you to spit it out, then I get the wide eye. Like, okay, they ain't woke. They ain't seeing something. But anyway, before I finish reading this, I have to address something. Somebody sent me a video to watch. And it was some group of guys, melanated brothers. They were part of some religious belief. The video was about 11 years old. And he was talking about using diplomacy, cursing, and we don't curse because you're not going to reach everybody if you do curse. I mean, that might be true. You got to use diplomacy. We use diplomacy. Listen, man, tell you about diplomacy. Yes, I use diplomacy in certain situations. I study my opponent and I use different tactics. But when I'm on this show, my tongue gonna be free. Because this is mine. This is me. This is what the spirit of the God within me, the wisdom of Sophia gave me to do. And if I curse on this motherfucker, it's my business. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere. Don't send me no videos trying to get me to tone my voice and say something different. Because then now you're trying to control me just like they trying to control me. And I don't appreciate that. And I hope you're listening. I wanted to respond to the text, but some said, no, don't do that. Because what you're going to say is going to, it's going to hurt some feelings. Listen, let people be who they be. Because I know billionaires that got worse mouths than mine. Because there is a group of people, and they go and pay him $25,000 for him to sit there and curse them out for 2 weeks. Y'all know I'm talking about Dan Pena. People paid I paid money to go see him in London. Why? Because I don't care about his vernacular. He don't read very well, but he's a billionaire. And the people that are not highly educated are the ones with the money. Let me change that. They are highly educated. They're highly educated on money. Do y'all understand that the population of the world, most people in the world are living from paycheck to paycheck? Right? Yeah, but they diplomatic. They diplomatically broke. So don't try to put a check on my tongue. It ain't gonna work. Because you're gonna hear me talk like this, and I'm being mild right now. I know you was trying to send that in, some type of love or understanding to try to, because you want me to sound better for your ears. If what I'm saying is bothering you, I'm sure there's somebody else. Uh-oh. Hang on. Let me get my camera back. All right. Let me see if my All right, my voice is still there, but let me get my camera back up. There we go. There's a lot of people that's going to talk the way you want them to talk. Not everybody's made for everybody, but there's a lot of people that want to hear me be raw and uncut. And that's who I'm talking to. Because in order to get through these problems, you need raw and uncut. Because what you're dealing with is raw and uncut. When you go to these schools and they're trying to label your children as dumb and special education, when your child is actually super intelligent, and you got this unintelligent teacher trying to tell you your child is slow. The slow calling somebody slow. Come on. Just the thing is, we don't give our children credit. They're highly intelligent. They come out with pure spirit, divine understanding, which we have lost over time because we've allowed this society pressure of social norms to erase our memory and take over with their nonsense. So the children are the ones that got the information. But we're so stupid, we hold them back by not letting them spit it out. We don't listen to them. Let me finish. Convert always the blacks by using the whip. Keep their women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. See that? They did 9 months. Coincidentally, gestation is 9 to 10 months, right? Force them to pay you in sign of recognition, goats, chicken, or eggs every time you visit their villages. And make sure that niggas never become rich. Sing every day that it's impossible for the rich to enter heaven. Make them pay tax each week at Sunday Mass. Now you understand why they make you pay tithes every week at the church. It's to keep you poor. That's what it's for. That whole paying keeps you, I gotta pay, and you just hoping for something to come your way because you paying. And you stuck in a cycle of poverty from generation after generation, doing the same dumb stuff every Sunday and expecting something to change. It ain't gonna change. How you expect something to change? You've been doing the same thing since your mama, daddy, granddaddy, great granddaddy, all of them did the same thing. How's it gonna change? You're doing the same thing they're doing. Use the money supposed for the poor to build flourishing business centers. So they took the money out. Just isn't that what they're doing with these corner stores in the indigenous people's neighborhoods? Institute a confessional system which allows you to be good detectives, denouncing any black that has a different consciousness contrary to that of the decision maker. So really, this is war. This is war. This is a war tactic. Different conscious contrary to that of the decision maker. Teach the niggas to forget their heroes and to adore only ours. Speaking of that, all of these Marvel comic heroes are all your ancestors' heroes remixed. Thor, all of them. Remixed heroes. Okay? Never forget their heroes and to adore only ours. No, teach the niggas to forget their heroes and to adore only ours. That's what I'm talking about with these superhero movies where they only have the white man being strongest, that pale skin. See, they have to give you a perception of strength, and they have strength. I mean, but when you look around, who's really stronger in the physical sense? That's why they created the revolver. Right? They created that it's called the equalizer. Because there's one thing that white man is afraid of when it comes to a black man or an indigenous male, is his power to procreate. It's one thing. That's why the revolver. It's called the Great Equalizer. All right, where was I? Teach the niggas to forget their heroes. Never present a chair to a black that comes to visit you. Don't give him more than one cigarette. Never invite him for dinner, even if he gives you chicken every time you arrive at his house. The above speech, which shows the real intention of the Christian missionary journey in Africa, was exposed to the world by the Mr. Mukwani Bukoko, born in Congo in 1915, and who in 1935, while working in the Congo, bought a secondhand Bible from a Belgian priest who forgot the speech in the Bible. So this was discovered. We should note that all missionaries carried out and still carry out that mandate. We are only lucky to have found King Leopold's articulation of the aim of all Christian imperialist missionaries to Africa. Even the African converts who today manage the older churches in Africa, the priests, bishops, archbishops, cardinals, etc. of the Roman and Protestant sects, and especially all of those who evangelized born-again Christianity, still serve the same mandate, which is why they demonize African gods and anglicize African names and drop the names of African deities which form part of African names, and still attack and demolish the African shrines that have managed to survive Okija. Those Africans who voluntarily converted to Christianity before the colonial conquest, such as Alfonso I of the Bakongo in the 15th century probably did not discern the purpose of the brand of Christianity that was supplied to them, which was probably why they fell easy prey to the missionaries and the white traders and pirates who followed them. But their Japanese counterparts probably did discern the game even without access to some versions of Leopold's letter. But even if the Japanese shoguns did not intuit what Leopold makes explicit, they clearly realized the danger of Japanese converts to Christianity, forming a fifth column within Japanese society and state. A fifth column loyal to their co-religionists in Europe. To rid Japan of that danger, in the late 16th century, the shoguns began their expulsion of Portuguese and Spanish missionaries on the grounds that they were forcing Japanese to become Christian, teaching their disciples to wreck temples, taking and trading slaves, etc. Then in 1596, it became clear to the Japanese authorities that the Christianization had been prelude to Spanish conquest of other lands. And it quickly dawned on them that a fifth column, loyal to Rome, controlled by the priests, let me bring this down, priests of a foreign religion, was a clear and present danger to the sovereignty of a newly unified Japan. Soon after the persecution and suppression of Japanese Christians began, early in the 17th century, sensing the danger from a creed that taught obedience to foreign priests rather than the Japanese authorities, all missionaries were ordered to leave and all Japanese were ordered to register at the Buddhist temples. When Japanese Christians took part in rebellion, foreign priests was executed. The Spanish were expelled and Japanese Christians were forbidden to travel aboard. See, that that right there should have happened here. After another rebellion, largely by Christians, was put down, the Japanese Christians were suppressed and their descendants were put under close state surveillance for centuries thereafter. In the 1640s, all Japanese suspected of being Christians were ruthlessly exterminated. Whoa, they went hard. Thus did Japan by 1650s save itself from the first European attempt to mentally subvert, conquer, and colonize them. See, they tried this in other places, but it didn't work. I mean, they got Christians in Japan now. The African captives who were taken abroad and enslaved, and the Africans at home after the European conquest, having already been forcibly deprived of their autonomy, were in no political position to resist Christianization. Now, that brings me to a point. Sophia just hit me with, she said, let me explain something. If they were trying to do it in Japan, what they were doing in Africa, what complexion do you think the skin of the Japanese people were at that time? Think about it. What complexion do you think they were? Because they thought all dark people were niggers and savages. So they thought the Japanese people were savages, and they had this, what we see Japanese today, this really fair skin now. No, they were dark people. I got a few pictures of Japanese people that are dark. A whole slew of dark. Stop and think. If you using your common sense, why were they trying to? But those Japanese wasn't having it. Oh, Then they didn't, they made the mistake of trying to lighten up their group, and they brought some Europeans in and created this lighter skin, like they did in other countries. They didn't just do that in the Caribbeans and all those places. They did this around the world. He said the shoguns were definitely dark. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And the church you give your money to won't help when you need money. They sure won't even let you bury your ancestors there. Yeah, they See, when you stop and think about these things, you start to make sense. Right? There you go. Thus, Christians still practice in the African American diaspora, just as that in the African homeland since the start of 20th century continues to carry out the Leopoldine mandate. Hence, for example, whereas the white-born Agains of the USA when in the U.S. Navy ships in World War II sang "Praise the Lord" and passed the ammunition, the attitude of African-born Again converts today is best summed up as "Praise the Lord and lie down for the manna." Thanks to a century or more of this Leopold-mandated missionary mind control, African Christians are not an activist, self-helping, economically engaged, politically resolute, let alone militant bunch. Hence, they're putting up with all manner of mistreatment and exploitation by their misrulers, white and black. Let me show you how, let me give you another example, how they use our people against us. Look at all these popular rappers and what they rap about and how they rap about things that are largely sexually orientated, just exploitation of the indigenous woman's body. The things that they say they want to be exploited for. Like me, if I went at them like that, but yet we sing it in our songs. They're in our music. So they use all of these celebrities that people are looking up to, Sexy Red, Cardi B, I can't think of all of them. They use all of them to make it okay to talk about certain things in their record and sexualize the women into being the only thing they're good for is sex. And this is why the boys are treating the women that way. They just want that. They don't want spiritual connection and elevating each other through what's the word? Spiritual elevation. Which, let me tell y'all something. If you had true spirituality, you and your woman really on that spiritual high level, your sex will be off the chart anyway. It won't be just on a physical level. Yeah, you can have good physical sex, really good. But if it's the spirituality is connected, it'd be off the charts, mind blowing. That exists. Because that's where it's supposed to come from. When you bring in souls into this world, it's supposed to come from a spiritual connection. And now you're bringing a pure, it's all levels, bro. It's all levels. Literally mind blowing. All right. Where was I? Hence, they're putting up with all manner of mistreatment and exploitation by their misrulers, white and black. The most they are disposed to do to their misrulers is to admonish them to fear God. And that's what we're doing now. Don't do nothing. Let God take care of it. As one protester's miserable placard read in the last week's Lagos demonstration against the latest of the murderous fuel price hikes by the OBJ misgovernment, the idea of an uprising to tame their misrulers is alien to the religiously opiated frame of mind of the Nigerians. The lesson in the contrast between the Africa that the Christian missionaries brainwashed and subverted and Japan where this brainwash and subversion was forcibly prevented is stark and clear. What then must Africans of today begin to do to save themselves from brainwashing by their white world enemies here on earth? That is the question. I know what to do. And I can't break it down on here. I'm doing hindsight days. It's 8:30. And I ain't even out of breath yet. But I ain't gonna stay in here too much longer. Let's see. That showed up from the Last Dragon. Y'all know what to do. Y'all just don't want to do it. Y'all scared. I know. They programmed us to be scared. And y'all not so scared of them. What you're scared of is disappointing your mamas. What my mama say if I do certain such? Because, you know, God, they have programmed her to keep you in check. That's where the real fear is. It's okay if you go against someone that look like you, but when you go against them, that system, your mama's the first one. Oh no, baby, because she wants you. She don't want you to. She's not willing to let you be the sacrifice to make things happen. But I'm gonna stop right there. All right, peace. All right, everybody. I think y'all got the point that this version of Christianity is merely there to keep you a slave, to keep you at odds with each other. Yeah, merely a slave. With that being said, remember I got seminar in New York on the 24th. I think I showed the flyer. I'm going to send out another email. Check my website. Go to akemail.com and it's on there. It's on there. I think it's there. Yeah, it's right here. I'll share this. It's right there. And remember, it's donation based. It's donation based. So y'all ain't got no excuse not to be there. Really, you don't. All you need is your plane ticket, your car to get there. You don't have to. You give what you want. You know. Be generous. I appreciate donations of the paper kind, 20 and above. But yeah, be there. It's gonna be hype. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be real good. If y'all missed this, so go to akemail.com. I need y'all to register. I would like for y'all so I'll know who's coming. So far, I think a few people already went to the website and registered. But just go ahead and register on there. All right. I hope I opened y'all's eyes up. I hope I did. All right. I'm going to leave this up here for y'all to see. So peace, prosperity, extreme wealth to everyone.